Welcome to the School of Design's annual fashion show. I've had the pleasure of attending this show each year since I became Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts. No matter how it is presented, in person, on campus, in New York City, or virtually, our fashion design students always amaze me with their creativity, innovation, and forward-thinking style. The class of 2021 is no exception. They overcame incredible challenges over the past 2 years to realize the collections that you will see in just a few moments. I'd like to thank our fashion design faculty for all they do to help support our students. I'd also like to thank Dr. Emily Stokes-Reese, Director of the School of Design, for her support of this event. Finally, I congratulate all of our fashion design seniors on getting to this moment. Enjoy it. I can't wait to see where you go and what you accomplish next.
Hello everyone, my name is Emily Stokes-Reese, and for those who don't know me, I'm the Director of the School of Design. I'd like to start off these brief remarks with a couple of thank yous. First, thank you to the families and loved ones supporting our graduating students. We know that every person watching today has played an important role in the lives of these students, so thank you. I also want to extend my congratulations and thank yous to the amazing fashion design faculty. Professors Jeffrey Mayer, Todd Conover, and Kirsten Schoonmaker. Over the past 4 years, not only have these talented designers taught our students all they need to know to be successful, they have also been supportive mentors, honest critics, and the champions who have reassured you, graduates, every step of the way, that you have your own unique voice, and that if you work hard and with passion, you will achieve all your goals. In every class over the past 4 years, whether fashion illustration, history, or flat pattern making, you have married creative design to technical skills in astounding ways. You have learned that fashion has a responsibility and stake in the environment, in creating livelihoods for artists and designers, and in making society a more inclusive place. This has been a year of mental, physical, and emotional endurance, and I want to acknowledge the hard work everyone has putting into making this a safe and successful year, as well as the disappointment of not being able to hold the senior fashion show together in person. This group of 10 graduating seniors is truly a powerhouse of awe-inspiring talent. Congratulations to each one of you, and we can't wait to see your collections.
I'm Mackenzie Scanlon, and I'm a senior fashion design major here at Syracuse. My inspiration for this collection is 1970s disco wear. I really wanted to create a collection that was super fun and bright and expressive, and doing some research on this time period, it really felt like this was the perfect era to sort of encapsulate exactly what I wanted. My creative process consisted of doing some research on the time period. So I researched 70s fashion. I watched a documentary on Studio 54, the iconic nightclub in New York City where a lot of major fashion moments took place. And then I sort of started making a list of design elements that I knew I wanted, like fabrics, colors, textures. Started with a ton of sketches and then edited those down. And then from there, we began construction. I think what I enjoyed most about designing this collection was there weren't many parameters. It was really fun to basically just do whatever I wanted, really. It was really nice to just be able to express myself in whichever way that I felt would really get my vision across. So I'm really pleased that I found an inspiration that I'm super inspired by and really into, so that I was really able to get into this collection and really invest what I wanted to. I really loved designing this collection and making a collection. This is the first collection that we've actually made. We've designed and sketched a ton, but this is the first that we actually got to see from start to finish. Hopefully, way more collections in my future. Hopefully this won't be my last. So yeah, way more designing and way more, hopefully just many more collections in my future.
Hi, my name is Adele Wade, and I'm a senior fashion design student at Syracuse University, also with a milestone in fashion and beauty communications. The title of my senior collection is Battle Cry, and it's inspired by Amazonian warriors, specifically Penthesilea, who was the queen of the Amazons. Behind my collection, I've juxtaposed the silhouette of like an Amazon warrior with textiles that are less conventional for what you would think. So I've been experimenting with softer textiles and upcycled thrift items, which I've been putting together in a fashion that's more than just kind of cut and sew, and instead doing a ton of pattern making to make more structured garments. There's a lot of things that women go through that aren't talked about, and I think that kind of creating an armor for them is a reflection of how we can feel on the inside when we're actually struggling or battling things within our life. Within that, I wanted to use materials that are upcycled because I would be able to inherit the stories of those pieces and the wear that comes within them as something that's pre-used and pre-owned. And just kind of that borrows from the stories of the people who have already worn it and adds to the feeling of the piece. So I began really thinking about where I was going to design and what elements I was going to use a year ago when I was studying abroad in London, and then over the summer during my quarantine, kind of compiling different ideas and just putting up drawings on my wall and saving those. And basically I begin with solidifying the fabrics that I want to use, finding those from the thrift store, and then I'll create a pattern, decide where I want to place the different fabrics, and do the whole cut and sew. And now we're in the process of fittings. After graduation, I really want to pursue women's wear design, and I'm really into sustainable practices within that. So I think that I want to work in the industry for a couple of years and then hopefully begin my own brand.
Hi, I'm Madison Karpoff. I'm a fashion design major. The inspiration behind my collection is high tea. So I was recently given my grandmother's tea sets, and I was really inspired by the floral motifs on them. And when I studied abroad in London, high tea was a very fun thing to go do, and we would get dressed up and go out. So I tried to incorporate that in my collection with the gowns I've created. I just started researching high tea and the history behind that, and then I continued to draw and began draping, which I grew to love because I learned draping in London. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was in my kitchen drawing one of the florals on the tea sets I have, and I drew this one ball gown, and it really solidified the idea of doing this collection based on high tea. As I was drawing the collection, I realized that the silhouettes had a very 1950s silhouette. So from there, I did some more research and furthered my designs. Just seeing the process evolve between painting the florals onto the fabric and draping, and just watching all the dresses I've made come to life was really fulfilling. My goal ever since I was a little kid, maybe 3 years old, I've known that I've wanted to be a bridal gown designer and special occasion. I just love how intimate the experience is designing for a person on their special day, and knowing that I could be a part of that and really get to know that person and design something unique for them is really fulfilling and makes me love what I do. I know that once the pandemic is over and everyone can socialize again, that people are gonna want to dress up and make everything a big deal, just like they did in other pandemics that we've had in history. So I think that designing for the future gives us a little hope.
Hi, my name is Evie Shimoleski. I'm a senior at Syracuse University and I'm majoring in fashion design. The inspiration behind my collection aesthetically is punk culture, specifically in London in the 80s. I was really inspired by kind of like the grunge and the imperfect silhouettes that they embraced during that time. But from a wider lens, my collection is inspired by constant and ever-present change. I feel like a lot of people can resonate with experiencing change within the past year. So I was really inspired to create something that is reflective of my experience. When I went abroad, I went to London and I wrote a paper on punk culture for a class in fashion theory. And I really resonated with how it stemmed from the kind of hippie love and peace culture. And I never really understood why there was such a intense outlash against that. And from taking the class, I learned that the whole movement was inspired to create this chaos and to kind of cease the manufacturing of an artificial love and peace. And it's really just an expression of your emotions and being okay with not being okay sometimes. I always knew I wanted it to be inspired by punk aesthetic, but I wanted to do it in a really modern way. So it was definitely an adjustment, figuring out how to incorporate my personal taste with an aesthetic that I'm fond of. It's one of the first times that I've really gotten to express my personal aesthetic in such a large way, and to see like a full collection just of my designs is something that really makes the collection so personal to me, and it is what I enjoy doing the most. I love designing. Thank you to my parents. They've never questioned for a second like my passion for this, and they've never hindered me from pursuing exactly what I want, so this is dedicated to them.
My name is Miriam Joyce, and I am a fashion design major and an exercise science minor at Syracuse. My collection is called Deeply Rooted. During the pandemic, there was a lot of people who don't usually get outside, explore the outdoors, kind of like learning to appreciate the outdoors, appreciate the calmness and the quiet. I always loved fashion, but I wasn't sure how to make it work with my love for the outdoors. Because I am focused on creating a sustainable and ethical collection, I decided to get all of my fabrics naturally dyed, use natural fibers, and make it something that people could wear during the pandemic when they're working from home, something that's comfortable when they're on the computer screen, but hopefully will last longer, and pieces that will keep coming back time after time and stay with the trends and stay with the times so that they won't just get thrown into a landfill. My creative process behind this was pretty much just sitting outside, looking at the colors. I did a lot of research on what fruits and foods and natural things can dye fabrics and what color options there are, because I was kind of limited in the color palette because of that. I ended up buying some dyed fabric and I dyed my own, which was a unique experience and something I probably wouldn't have had time to do this summer if it weren't for the pandemic. And that was probably one of the aspects I enjoyed the most. I feel like a lot of it is always based off of buying fabric, and getting to create my own was cool, and getting to get my hands a little bit dirty was really exciting. I would like to be a sustainable designer and work for a company that has sustainable clothing and that is striving towards being a better company for the environment and just an ethical place. I feel like that's something that is important to me as a person, and also I feel like I've tried with my collection to exemplify that.
Hello everyone, my name is Kendall Wiley. I'm a senior majoring in fashion design at Syracuse University, and I'm the CEO and owner of my brand called The Collection. So the inspiration behind my senior collection is about the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and during the recent times of the protest, I was actually an essential worker. So I was making masks and everything like that for people, and during those long hours, I wasn't able to attend. And I still wanted to have my voice and use my power for something. And I feel like it's a great way to do it through my fashion collection. I believe my fashion collection is very powerful. And one of the ways that I make it powerful is through adding words onto the garments. And the way that I'm gonna do that is through screen printing, which is something that I've never tried before. Just something that's new to me, but it's a different technique. I actually enjoy it now that I have a class and I've been working with it a little bit, and I think that it's gonna turn out very good. So I created a brand called The Collection, and it's very like urban fashion and everything like that. It has a lot of aspirations, a lot of little messages that, you know, some people just need. Like I know that I needed myself. Like this hoodie itself, Overwhelmed hoodie, comes in a variety of different colors. But the embroidered design of Overwhelmed just gives that, all right, I'm over being overwhelmed. And I feel like this is just great. As a fashion designer, my future goals is to be a head designer or a fashion buyer at Nike. Nike has always been like top tier for me. I've always loved graphic tees, graphic hoodies, all of like graphic designs and clothing. And I feel like Nike is just top tier. They're the #1 at that. And I would love to be at Nike. But at the same time, I will also love to be a competitor against Nike. Me and my brand, The Collection, you know, we gotta get up there.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Beth, and I'm a fashion design major here at Syracuse University, and my senior collection is called Greetings from Palm Springs. I chose to do a resort wear line because throughout this whole pandemic, people have felt very nostalgic about travel, and I really hope to transport them to Palm Springs throughout my collection. I decided to create a women's resort wear line because over this past summer, I became extremely fascinated with designing and creating my own bathing suits. My inspiration is Palm Springs, California, since it is one of the biggest destinations for vacations. It is relaxing and has picturesque views with scenic golf courses, luxury spas, and multi-million-dollar homes. The 3 prints I also designed for this collection are inspired by the 1960s, when there was a yearning to flock to these vacation destinations like Palm Springs. In the beginning, I started out with at least 100 different full looks and different variations of prints. I then narrowed down to 6 full looks with 3 different prints. I separated my work from 2, 2, and 2, meaning every 2 looks uses 1 print. What I've enjoyed most about making this collection is that everyone will see who I am as a fashion designer throughout my inspiration and throughout my garments. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I was unable to travel to different fabric stores outside of the Syracuse, New York area. This led me to make my own prints using online companies where I would print my fabric and I would choose the fabric it would get printed on. Being able to make my prints using Adobe Photoshop and Procreate has been wonderful because it gets to show my talents through there, and it also is very personal and adds to the storyline of the collection. My future goals and aspirations as a fashion designer are to keep working and keep creating and exploring. I will never stop making new projects and working on my passions. I also hope one day to own my own fashion line and brand that will focus heavily on women's resort wear and ready-to-wear.
Hi, my name is Bailey Levin, and I am a senior fashion design student at Syracuse University. The inspiration behind my collection kind of came from my semester abroad in London. A lot of my inspiration came from not only what I saw there, but also like how I felt and like the things I went through there. So just the different like sites that we saw were like crazy to see, very different from what you see, you know, in the US and the places I visited here. But also like the classes I took the projects that we were assigned, just different things like that. That's where the inspiration for my collection came from. We were assigned a project where we were given a specific designer we had to design as like inspiration from them, and that gave me the inspiration for my whole collection here. It's definitely very futuristic, I guess. My collection incorporates a lot of velvet and like satin type fabrics. It kind of gives like this chic kind of vibe to the whole thing. The aspects I enjoyed most while making this collection is kind of putting my whole like soul into something, like actually creating something all from your own ideas and your own experiences versus kind of having boundaries in an assignment and just being able to create whatever you want. Right now I would love to go into bridal or evening wear, but I want to explore every part of fashion. I want to do everything I can. I will take any opportunity to be part of any type of industry at this point, just so I can be well-rounded and learn about all different aspects of the industry.
Hi, my name is Jody Nguyen. I'm a fashion design major at SU, and my collection is based on the artistic endeavor, which is a combination of various subcultures that I'm interested in. I've always been fascinated with subcultures in the past, since high school pretty much. When I was in the Catholic school for 7 years, we were like totally devoid of like individualistic fashion. And as soon as I got into public school, the freedom of expression pretty much opened up, so I used it as my creative outlet. My favorite part was having the creative liberty to do pretty much what I wanted without much restrictions. Since we were prompted that we had creative freedom, then I felt so much better in my design. When I'm working, I pretty much try to make it as I go because I can't adhere to strict schedules because I'm more of a creative individual, and I work better when things weren't like on a due date because
Like some things you're confident in, you go a little faster, and some things that are more difficult, you try to take your time on because you want it to be aesthetically pleasing. I would like to work for some company and maybe have some individual customers, and hopefully things will turn out. I really want people to be encouraged to be creative, because individuality, I think, is one of the most important things in life, because you only have so much time on earth, you know, and I just wish to make a mark on this planet before I leave. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Chandler Berg. I'm a senior fashion design major at Syracuse University with a minor in public communication studies and a Newhouse Fashion and Beauty Communications milestone distinction. I do a lot of work with designers and models backstage at New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, and Paris Fashion Week. My current collection, the Modern Doll, that I've been working on over the past year, has been inspired by the elements that I found throughout Fashion Week. The Modern Doll was inspired by how the models felt when they were wearing corseted items and garments that had high shoulder pads and where they just felt truly posturized. And so this inspiration led me to looking at animals, including the oryx, and I was looking at the horns of the oryx, and I was able to then abstract them and make them into the shoulder pads that you see on nearly all of my looks in my collection. So this collection is basically a take on the term doll and how society views the term doll. And I want to make it okay to be over-sexual and overconfident and have that be something that's embraced and valued and something that the model just really feels confident and comfortable wearing. The corsets that I saw when I was working Fashion Week, I was super inspired by them, and then I took those to my drawing pad and was able to look at how I would potentially put my take on a corset and how that would look in my collection. I often look at nature and things surrounding me, which is why I was inspired by the oryx, and I was able to use features from the oryx like the horns and put those into my collections like the shoulder pads. I was able to take something that I was really inspired by and I'm still inspired by, which is a confident collection that embraces sexuality and humanity, and I was able to kind of reinstate that purpose throughout the whole collection. What I enjoyed best about designing and making this collection was really being able to use couture techniques that I've kind of developed and looked at over the course of this past year and implement new techniques into my design process that I hadn't done so before. I've really been able to look at digital fashion as well by turning this collection into something that wasn't just physical but was also digital. Postgraduate studies, I really hope to begin and launch my own brand. I want this brand to be a gender-inclusive design brand that really just embodies everything that's within my current collection that I'm working on now. So I want elements of gender inclusivity, I want equality, and I want garments that just make you feel confident and powerful when you're wearing them. With my implementation of couture techniques that I've been working on, I really want to have that be a focus of what I launch in the near future as well.
Hello, I'm Professor Jeffrey Mayer, Program Coordinator for the Fashion Design Program at Syracuse University. I am overwhelmed by the talent we just witnessed. We will never forget the class of 2021 and will always remember you as a tight-knit group of compassionate, talented, and uniquely upbeat young designers. You were a group who, when faced with challenges, rose to the occasion with grace and wit. This is not the end of your relationships with each other or with us as a program, college, or university, but rather the beginning of a brand new chapter. We eagerly look forward to your journeys and to hearing about your new accomplishments. Now I would like to introduce Professor Todd Conover and Professor Kirsten Schoonmaker, who will be announcing the 2021 Senior Fashion Design Awards.
A university is much more than a collection of coursework that makes up a degree. A university is a community of people, diversity, opportunity, understanding, and ideas. Students who dive in, take advantage of, and explore and engage in what this place and its people has to offer have a better understanding of not only their chosen fields of study, but of the world. Speaking for myself, someone who is primarily a creative thinker, a designer, and maker, juggling the creative side of the mind with the academic side in any sort of relative harmony is often extremely challenging. It is the rare student who beautifully achieves this magical balancing act. This year's Syracuse University School of Design Award for Outstanding Fashion Design Senior goes to Adele Wade.
In the world of design, universities are places where exploration, discovery, collaboration, and expansion to the perceived limits for design inspiration are embraced and encouraged. In wearable design, the boundless array of means to approach a chosen inspiration is as often paralyzing as it is empowering. It is the job of the designer to edit and hone the possibility of inspiration into a cohesive and understandable visual story where art seamlessly bridges design, and vice versa. This year's Joan Ruzitsky Fashion Design Award for Outstanding Collection goes to Evie Shimaleski.
There are limits to the ways, albeit with vast variation, that the body can be covered. A designer who thinks clearly outside of the box concerning these norms, materials, and shapes will undoubtedly create something that is unique. The gift of experimentation, the ability to throw all convention out of the window and try something new for the sake of trying it, is rare, but the results can be exceptional and thought-provoking. This year's Joan Ruzitsky Fashion Design Award for Experimental Collection goes to Chandler Burke.
Surface. Every material has a surface. Every material is a choice. Surface. The word is uttered probably 200 times a day in every studio and classroom in the School of Design. Surface alteration, surface texture, surface manipulation, surface coloration, surface deconstruction, surface addition, surface subtraction, etc., etc. Materials come to us with a surface, a finish, and as designers, we will push the boundaries of that material by manipulating the surface in an unending myriad of ways. Surface manipulation demands experimentation, and for the fashion designer, a desire beyond shape, fit, and detail to convey a message. This year's Fashion Endowed Fund Excellence in Fashion Design Award for Material Manipulation goes to Madison Karpoff.
Persistence. Every designer persists to some extent to facilitate the birth of their ideas. Persistence requires long hours, experimentation, repeated attempts, complete reboots, celebration of tiny wins, and the ability to recognize failure as a gift to advance forward and bring vision to fruition. Failure is the #1 gateway of experience that brings concept into true reality. For many of us, this dedication of concept and the resulting unrealized vision yields to a more organic process of design evolution. While this is certainly a valid design process that can result in surprising outcomes, it is the rare designer who fiercely works towards the original, unedited vision. This year's Fashion Endowed Fund Excellence in Fashion Design Award for Persistence of Concept goes to Jody Wynn. Thank you all for attending, and we wish you all the best of luck.